standalone service, but as the fundamental pillar of peace and global cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving justice requires us to challenge the global conflicts that shapes whose education system are protected and whose are not. It requires that our commitments are matched with actions rooted in justice, peace, and prosperity for all. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your clarity and powerful framing. You reminded us that the world is facing the sharpest decline of peace in decades, and that every statistic represents a question of justice. Qatar's commitment to mediation, protection, and support for crisis-affected learners sets a clear example of how justice and education reinforce each other. With this foundation set, we now move into our panel discussion. We will explore how justice can guide education systems in times of crisis and armed conflict, and how accountability, protection, and power dynamics shape whose education systems survive and whose collapse. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists with me on stage. Her Excellency Hind Qabawat, Minister for Social Affairs of the Syrian Arab Republic. Mr. Hamza Youssef, MSP, former First Minister of Scotland. Ms. Francesca Albanese, the United... The United Nations, well, I don't think she needs an introduction. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territories. And last but not least, Mr. Jean Van Wetter, Chief Executive Officer of Enable, the Belgian Development Agency. Thank you all for being here. Allow me to begin with you, Your Excellency, with my first question. Across Syria, after over a decade of war and the most serious grave violations of law and justice, families continue to face enormous social and economic pressures that directly affects children's abilities to access and stay in school. What measures are needed to keep children in school? And how can international partners like us?
First, thank you. I want to thank Qatar for the last 14 years for standing by us and so many children in school because of the state of Qatar. So thank you. And thank you, Your Excellency, for your guidance in education. And thank you for education for all. From the title, you know that we're in the right place. Francesca, I need to thank you. Your leadership for the Palestinians, brothers and sisters and children are very highly appreciated. So thank you again. Let me here speak as a mother and educator. Let's forget the ministry and the minister. The children in Syria, they suffered a lot for the last 14 years. They've been, most of them, out of school. It's been hard. They live under the war, bombing. 2/3 of the schools are being bombed by the regime and others. So it's been one from the opposition, one from the Kurdish. So it's been very hard on them. So already the little students are divided. So they don't even learn the same curriculum. For us, education, if you ask any child, what is justice for you? And when I speak, many mothers doing everything and devoting their lives to teach their children. Those children, one of the most beautiful things, they knew in the camp that tomorrow there will be school. When we went there, we saw lining up for children. They want to go to school. This is what they want. They want to learn. And I can tell you, if we want to do a reconciliation in Syria, we can start with education from young age, how to respect other diversity and multi-ethnics, and the way you can unite students and you can work on great, bright future is to start teach them from the beginning that bullying is not okay. Judging people from their religion or from ethnic group, it's not okay. We're all united in being critical thinkers. Those children, once we give them hope, we can build the future.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. It's so powerful to hear your perspective as a minister, but also a mother, and as a person who has been in the camps, a person who has experienced that reality herself. So thank you for that powerful message. I turn to you, Mr. Youssef. You have been at the forefront of leaders who have spoken out about the unprecedented death and destruction in Gaza. What is at stake for the people there in terms of distributive justice? Now that the education has been almost totally destroyed, with almost all schools and universities damaged and affected.
Bismillah. First of all, let me thank the Doha Forum and the State of Qatar for this wonderful forum. It gives me energy for two reasons. One, because we do not have sunshine in Scotland in December. Alhamdulillah, you have it here. And the second reason, because here you are focused on innovation and solutions, which gives me energy and enthusiasm to go back home and hopefully implement those solutions. But also, that was the easiest applause I've ever had in my life, my goodness. The second reason is because, or third reason, is because you have brought in this room in Education Above All, who works under the patronage of Her Highness, right the way to Minister Khabawat, who we watch with great interest. The Minister for Education, Her Excellency, I've watched from afar, and been very impressed by her advocacy for the Palestinian people. And of course, Francesca Albanese, who is a beacon of light in very dark times. Let me be very clear that every single one of us, particularly those with a platform, we should be absolutely unequivocal that the sanctions that have been put on Francesca are shameful, a stain on the collective conscience of the other world, and they should and must be lifted immediately. But let me answer the question. Your question was justice. Well, 97%, virtually every educational facility in Gaza has been damaged or destroyed. What justice? Almost 20,000 students and 1,000 teachers and educational staff have been killed by Israel. What justice? On top of a genocide that has slaughtered more than 20,000 children, by the way, including over 136 since the ceasefire, or so-called ceasefire, was announced. Hospitals bombed, refugee camps bombed, UN facilities bombed, more journalists killed in Gaza than in any other conflict since the Second World War combined. And you want to talk about justice? For there to be justice, at the heart of it, there must be accountability. And for that genocide that we have witnessed over the last 2 years, let alone all of the crimes that have been committed since 1948, but particularly in the last 2 years, not a single person in the Israeli administration has been held to account. And in fact, we don't live in an era of accountability, we live in an era of complicity, where the world has turned on its head, where those who oppose a genocide, like Francesca, they get sanctioned. And the ones who are complicit in the genocide get rewarded with money and with arms. So to answer your question, if you want justice, then there has to be accountability. And we appeal to countries like Qatar, like Saudi Arabia and others, who have influence with the allies in the United States, to use that. Then the message, I'm afraid, is a very clear one. Or you're a Muslim, or you're Arab, or frankly, if you are perceived not to be Western, then your blood is cheap.
Mr. Youssef, I wish there was anything I could say, but the emphasis on accountability is what you really leave with all of us, with a lot of other messages that already resonate with. You have been a leading voice on the Palestinian cause and its human rights implications. How do the principles of education and justice inform one another? And how is this relationship exposed in the context of Palestine and Gaza?
Good afternoon, first of all, and I would like to echo what has been said before me. First of all, let me thank all of you for the warm welcome, for the solidarity, and for the wonderful words, the authorities for bringing, and Equality for All, for bringing all of us together. This is still a very precious opportunity to discuss standing of not just the present, but the future. And I was debating, as you were posing the question to me, whether I shall correct you or not, because I don't know anymore, in the sense I'm not an advocate for the Palestinians. I'm not full noble people, but simply because this is not what I do. What I do as an international lawyer, as a scholar, international law, which is one of the victims of the present atrocities. I don't even, so, yes, but I've become so affiliated to the question of Palestine that today what you see happening to me and to the judges and prosecutors of the International Criminal Court and to 5 human rights organizations of Palestine, and I could spend hours telling you the level of persecution that has been unleashed against me and against the others, I will not, because the center is to remain on Palestine, and Palestine today epitomizes the crisis, the abyss, but also the hope that we have in front of us and to pursue. And so let's go to the question. Equity and justice are two, education and justice are two aspects of the two faces of the same coin. Education is justice, and I beg you, let's stop calling it a war. What Israel is doing to the Palestinian is not a war. It's wrong, morally, factually, and legally. As an international lawyer, I cannot accept. And my discourse has been steady from the very beginning. I mean, I've said it on the 14th of October 2023, where the world was still promising unconditional support to Israel, and Israel who has been committing apartheid for longer than people like me can remember. You cannot promise unconditional support to anyone. This was the first sense of the betrayal of international law that we were about to see. And no, again, the Palestinians are the oppressed people. Even now, continuing to talk about peace and ceasefire is just a distraction from what is happening to the Palestinians. This is just a slowing down of their genocide. And if we don't stand against this, the word peace and the word genocide will be the terms that will allow Israel to do what the genocide has not allowed, pursue the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. This is the reality. Education has not been a collateral damage. Education has been targeted as part and parcel of Palestinian identity. And in fact, the destruction of schools, of curricula, it's something that has started before October 2023. There were all the precursors of a genocide, and we've seen an acceleration after the horrific facts and the crimes that have been committed against Israeli civilians on October 7. Just an acceleration. But as education is justice, justice is also about education. And this is why I think that on the one hand, yes, we need to help the Palestinians rebuild themselves, but not from the roots of their, not from the foundations of their homes, which I believe, who's been hit in the heart and again, and stand against the colonial erasure. They are, a development goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Albanese. Your points reflect the pain that the Palestinian people have lived. And at the Education of All Foundation, we are committed to ensuring that their rights of access to education are advocated for and protected. And we also remain committed to rebuilding the education community in Gaza and beyond, wherever it is attacked and targeted. I move to you, Mr. Jean Van Wetter, for insights from an ODA perspective. Mr. Jean, Enable has a strong track record of supporting national systems rather than creating parallel ones. In contexts like Palestine and Syria, how can development actors support national institutions in ways that strengthen justice, equity, and local agency instead of creating parallel structures altogether?
Thank you very much. But first, I would like to also thank the Doha Forum Education above all for inviting me. I'm also very impressed with this panel and with the role Qatar is playing in mediation, so thank you very much. I'm also pleased that you put education at the center of this forum and to have an introduction by the President of Ghana and the Minister of State from Qatar shows that we need leadership as well to invest in education, and it's not only a social issue, but it's a major investment for the future of any nation. So thank you for this strong leadership in that. To my co-panelists, thank you as well for many years. And Enable, we have, as you say, a long track record in working with local authorities in building long-term systems, even in the most complex environment. And it is key for the sustainability. Often you see external organizations coming and building a parallel system, which is fine for a while, but it's not correct on the long run. So even in contexts like Palestine or other contexts, I think we should work with with authorities, with local authorities. Palestine, we invest in the joint financing agreement, so with other donors, we pool money together to make sure that it's not only one small project, but something that goes on the long run. That being said, when you are in a situation of war, you also need to innovate and to do things differently. And I think sometimes you need parallel systems. So in Gaza, we are involved in building temporary learning spaces to make sure that war going on. The same in DRC, in Congo, and Syria. We are not involved yet, but actually I have a team going there tomorrow. We have more than 2,500 staff, so we are a Belgian agency, but not that small. Belgium is a small country, but we are, at least in Africa and the Middle East, we have a strong presence, and this having staff on the ground, and having not only in the capital city, but also in provinces and regions, being close to the communities really helps us to be embedded into the national systems and not coming with a top-down approach and reinventing the wheel. And the last word, more personal, because you mentioned you are a mother, I'm a father too, and I want to say that education is universal, and we had a small crisis compared to what other countries live, but the COVID crisis in Europe also showed us that psychological, mental, it has on children, it's a very long-term effect. One of my daughters is 16 years old, and she lived COVID when she was 11, 12, and she speaks about that now, and it comes back, although the disruption was very short. So I cannot imagine, conflict like Syria, more than 14 years, as you mentioned, and others, the mental impact it has. So mental health should not be forgotten. And so that's why I'm committed to really put education at the forefront of what we do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Van Wetter. I know for a fact that Ms. Albanese will address a little bit about your remarks in her other question, but I won't spoil it for you, so it's going to be a very exciting surprise. I just know too much and I can't disclose. But moving on to our second round of discussions, and starting again with you, Your Excellency. Syria has lived through years of war, leaving millions of learners with limited opportunities. In this context, what types of financing are most needed to ensure education recovery is a just distribution of resources, especially for Syria, where communities are striving to rebuild after years of armed conflict and displacement?
First, the last 14 years left more than 1 million children out of school, out of the system. As a mother, it's depressing. And I lose sleep over this, because this is a problem, and big problem. So first of all, I have my social protection program. We start strategizing and creating a committee for this, and partnership with the Ministry of Education and Health and others. What bothered me more, that those, especially the refugees and the one who return, like the IDP, when you ask them about, they go to their destroyed cities, and I say, what's your priority? They never say house, they never say anything. They say, we want school. They don't to learn, so they need the school. So this is priority, a safe place for them, because it's been years they've been through war. I have to tell you about all those teachers. 5 years of siege, starvation, famine, but they nevertheless, they taught their kids, because they say we cannot ever give up hope. Don't forget, the Assad regime was targeted those people because he doesn't want them to be in school. He wants to get generation of people who are not in school. Those mothers sacrifice their lives. People in the suburb of Aleppo, support of safe place for schools, and also psycho support for those children and for those teachers. Did we ever support? We were celebrating the children of Syria going to school. Don't forget, above, they don't know how to read and write yet. What do we have to give them? We need to give them vocational training, something to work, because I cannot risk for them to go back and use armies. So every single girl today go back to school. Every single boy, we save their life, and we're creating a good citizenship. In my ministry, we have to start to get everybody to school.
Thank you, Your Excellency. A powerful message on the importance of psychosocial support, on the sacrifices made by these mothers and the whole of community to ensure education is still accessible, but also how do we centralize that now moving forward, and how do you within your ministry make it a cause close to your heart and continuously speaking from your heart as well. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Again, this moves me seamlessly to you, Mr. Youssef. You are spearheading work to build an international coalition that includes countries like Scotland, Qatar, and many others to help rebuild Gaza's higher education sector. After the rebuild, though, how do we protect those institutions from simply being destroyed all over again?
It's a great question. From my perspective, first of all, let me try to expand on the very important and salient point that Francesca made, that this targeting of education facilities is deliberate and it's systematic. It is part of the genocide and part of the attempt to erase the Palestinian people. By the way, this is not hidden. It's not below the radar. You don't have to read between the lines. Boast about the fact that they want to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people and their land. They talk about a greater Israel. They talk about moving people out of their lands. Of course, the Knesset approving the annexation, complete annexation of the West Bank. So this is deliberate and it's systematic. And it was pre-October 2023. Remember, even before October 2023, there was hundreds, quite literally, of children in a prison cell instead of a classroom. Palestinian children on trumped up charges, in fact no charges, held indefinitely. So instead of being educated, as they should have been, they're being held in a prison cell. So this is deliberate, it's systematic, and it's part of the erasure of the Palestinian, or attempted erasure of the Palestinian people. So yes, the international coalition, the wonderful thing about the Doha Forum is we've had these incredible conversations. I'm really pleased to see Saad Mohseni, Alex Thier was in here a moment ago, in fact he's here. They of course won the award, the opening ceremony, speaking to education above all, speaking to many higher education institutes, including the ones that are here in Qatar. Everybody has some enthusiasm. It's now just about coordinating and spearheading a response. We're working on that, and I've got every belief that it will be successful. But rebuilding for what? We're rebuilding, of course, because education is important in its own right. But we want to rebuild education because it is not only an act of resistance, it is an act of defiance. To say that the judges, the doctors, the lawyers, the teachers of Palestine, of tomorrow, will be Palestinians, their own country. And of course, that can only be done with education. So it is, for me, of course, an inherent right, education. That is primary, that is top, that is important. But it is also an act of defiance. And it is, I think, our international obligation to assist the Palestinian people, because the land of Palestine should and must always belong to the Palestinian people.
Nice question. It's coming up. Ms. Albanese, I return to you. This question goes to the heart of the psychological and cultural harm caused, an area I understand deeply through my studies in behavioral science and the work that I did at the Zati refugee camp a few years ago. So, what mechanisms can ensure not only the reconstruction of educational infrastructure, but also the restoration of cultural identity, collective memory, psychosocial healing for children who have been deliberately deprived of learning as a means of erasing their identity?
If I had to pick one word, not entirely, completely evaporated from where we are right now, but this is how we are going to get out of it. I mean, I don't want to anticipate the remarks that I will share in the next closing session, but there is something incredibly light and uplifting in what is happening despite the genocide. And I wonder now, with what I know, was it necessary? Many are realizing Palestine effect has awakened us, has connected, has allowed us to connect the dot. I have to beg your pardon, but when I hear the Belgian presence in Africa, there is something in me that revolts, because the Belgian presence in Africa is something that needs to be unpacked. And I say that as I use this genocide, I've said this is the opportunity for Europe to be different, for Europe not to be the vassal of the nation, because I was clearly seeing where the United States would go and where Israel would go. And I've said this is the time to act with wisdom and compassion toward the Israelis and the Palestinians, because probably this is the moment where the pain of the other make them close. Well, now I don't know, but 2 years ago it was possible for Europe to be a different Europe and to lend a hand to South Africa, for example. The case of South Africa against Israel for genocide tells us where we are. But at the same time, Palestine has awakened our conscience and is telling Europeans, for the first time, look at who you are. I've never heard so many Europeans understanding colonialism. The colonial bubble has been poked. It's not there anymore. The younger generation speak. Let's be honest, and I feel liberated in this respect to live with a possibly future leadership who's less inhuman than the current one. And the other thing, so going back to the critical point, I do not want to see. I want to see the end of it through helping each other, and we need to be able to say enough. Bikafi, stop. We are not going in the right direction. I have no more breath in my lungs, although I have to keep on saying that, but we are not going in the right direction. Someone needs to tell the United States, enough. You cannot continue like together. We will stop this, because again, what this country has suffered itself in the last months, it's proof that no one is safe until everyone is safe. Because the Greater Israel project is not something that is going to knock down the Palestinians only. It's a project that is going to destabilize the region, is going to destabilize the part of the world I come from, and much further than that. So let's educate ourselves about Palestine, about the colonial past that we still need to reckon with, and then discovering another way of being political and putting rights above profits and putting us before I. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jean Van Wetter, the answer is love. Your question, and I hope we can keep it brief. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I know we can have this conversation forever. But with global education funding shrinking while entire generations and vulnerable communities face systemic disruption, Enable ensures financing reaches communities with most affected by conflict and displacement. What have been models proven efficient from your side?
Thank you, but because I'm the last speaker, I will do a plea for international cooperation, and no problem to mention the Belgian past. I think we learned from our past and we recognized the mistakes. So the way we work in Africa now is completely different. We have 45 nationalities, and we work with, actually we are very international, very locally embedded. So no problem to mention the Belgian past. I think there is a lot of studies on it and for sure learning. But I want to do a plea today because it's an international forum for international cooperation. We need more than ever dialogue. Most of the countries are cutting down what they invest, and we need to be together, and for that we need, was mentioned in one of the speech, I think from the President of Ghana, global public goods. Education is one of them, climate is another one, and we need to recognize that it's universal, and we need a common investment for common humanity. And that's what I feel from Europe is now declining, because we see a less and less popular support for international cooperation. Egocentrism is what you see as well in the US, and I think our planet needs more than ever that we stick together on our common issues. So it's not only education that is targeted, but also every climate and the invest in what unites us. And what I'm afraid of, if we continue like that, we will go back to individualism and to every country working on their own, and we will lose our common interests. So yes, we need, and thank you again, the Doha Forum, for uniting us, but we need more. And I think we need in Europe a kind of, to show as well the benefits that there is in this international cooperation. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jean Van Wetter. Esteemed guests, esteemed panelists, Your Excellencies, we have been on a beautiful, wonderful journey together today through this world moving with our projects, our partnerships, and our friendships. From the Education Above All Foundation, thank you very much for joining us today.